Move, both of you, now. I'm a federal agent, and you're going to want to lower your voice. Federal agent, sure you are. Both of you, stand up, right now. Off a few minutes are going to define the rest of your career. Think carefully about what you do next.
Move, both of you, now. Andre Ellison does not move. He sets his water bottle down on the park bench. Slow, deliberate. He turns his head and looks at the officer standing 6 feet away with one hand already on his belt. I'm a federal agent, Andre says, and you're going to want to lower your voice. The officer's jaw tightens. His name tag reads Calloway. His eyes drag from Andre's face down to Terrence Lyle sitting beside him, then back up. His lip curls. Sir, federal agent. He says it like a punchline. Sure you are. Both of you, stand up, right now. Andre does not blink. Officer Calloway, he says quietly, the next few minutes are going to define the rest of your career. I'd think carefully about what you do next. If you're just joining us, welcome. Take a breath. This story is going to take you somewhere important. Stay with it all the way through, because what happens next changes everything. It is 4:37 in the afternoon. Piedmont Park. I'm Atlanta, Georgia. The temperature is 78 degrees, and the late autumn light is cutting long gold shadows across the walking paths. Charity race banners hang from the iron fencing along the east side of the park, blue and yellow, flapping slowly in a lazy October breeze. The 5K ended 40 minutes ago. The folding tables are half-packed. Volunteers in orange vests are coiling up extension cords on the far grass. 2 men are sitting on a wooden bench near the fountain. Not arguing, not loitering, not doing a single thing wrong. They are sitting. Andre Ellison, 38 years old, is in a gray moisture-wicking pullover and running shoes. He has a half-eaten energy bar in his hand and a phone face down on the bench beside him. Terrence Lyle, 41, sits to his left in a navy compression shirt, a fundraiser lanyard still looped around his neck. Their water bottles are sweating rings onto the bench between them, and they are watching a group of children throw bread at ducks near the pond. They had just helped raise $46,000 for Atlanta Youth STEM scholarships. That is what they were doing. That is all they were doing. Officer Bryce Calloway noticed them from the parking lot. He noticed them, and he decided something. Not based on facts, not based on behavior, not based on any observable evidence of any kind. He decided, in the way that some people do, before a single word has been spoken, before a single action has been taken. He decided they did not belong here. He crossed the grass in long strides, one hand already resting on his belt, and he came at them with the energy of a man who had never, not once in 11 years on this force, been wrong about these kinds of situations. He had no idea. He had absolutely no idea what he had just walked into. I said stand up. Calloway is closer now, 2 steps away. His backup, a younger officer named Deshaun Pryor. He hangs back near the path, thumbs in his vest, watching. Andre stands, not because he is afraid, because he is calculating. He is already 3 moves ahead. Terrence stands too, calm, quiet. His eyes go to the nearest park security camera mounted on the lamppost to their right. He checks the angle. He says nothing. IDs, Calloway says. What's the basis for the stop? Andre asks. You look like you're casing vehicles in the adjacent lot. Andre looks at the lot, then back at Calloway. We've been sitting on this bench for 22 minutes, Andre says. We finished a charity run. Our bibs are right there. He nods toward the lanyard on Terrence's chest. Calloway does not look at the lanyard. IDs, he says again. They comply. They hand over their IDs. Not because they are required to during a consensual stop, but because both men know something Calloway does not. The more cooperative they appear, the worse Calloway's decisions are going to look on paper. And Calloway runs their names. His radio crackles. The response comes back clean. No record, no warrants, nothing. He looks at his radio. He looks back at Andre. And then, without asking, without consent, without probable cause, without a single legally valid reason on this earth, he steps forward and puts his hands on Andre. A pat-down, unauthorized, unprovoked, unconstitutional. Andre does not resist, but he turns slightly, a natural physical reaction, just a slight shift of his shoulder. As Calloway grabs his wrist, hard, too hard. Don't move, Calloway says. Andre's jaw tightens. He says, low and steady, "Officer, that is excessive force. You don't get to tell me how to do my job." What Calloway does not realize, what he cannot possibly know yet, is that the moment he typed both of their names into his secondary database terminal, a system he was not authorized to access for this kind of query, something happened. A flag. Quiet. Automatic. Invisible to him. Every keystroke he just made was already being logged in a federal monitoring ledger he had never heard of. And then, Calloway reaches for his cuffs. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments, because people from all over the country need to see this story. Take a breath. Because what just happened at that park bench was not a loud, explosive moment. There was no screaming, no crowd yet, no chaos. It was something quieter, something that, and if you weren't paying close attention, might look almost routine. That is exactly what made it so dangerous. Bryce Calloway is not a man who loses his temper in public. He does not yell. He does not make scenes. He does not slam people against walls in broad daylight where everyone can see. His method is different. It is controlled, deliberate. He moves like a man who has learned, over 11 years, exactly how far he can push before anyone complains loud enough to matter. He presses, and waits for people to fold. Most do. He stands in that park on a 78-degree Atlanta afternoon, his cuffs already unclipped, and he has the absolute confidence of someone who has done this dozens of times and walked away without consequence every single time. He believes he is in control. He has been in control of every situation like this for over a decade. A complaint here, a report there. Nothing ever stuck. Nothing ever went anywhere. The system absorbed it, processed it, and returned it to him unopened. He has 3 prior complaints on his file. All 3 were closed without discipline. That number, 3, is not a warning in Calloway's mind. It is a track record. So as he stands over these 2 men in Piedmont Park, he is not calculating risk. He is not second-guessing. He is doing what he always does, performing power in the way he has always performed it, expecting the outcome he has always received. But there is something he does not know about the database query he ran 2 minutes ago. When Officer Bryce Calloway typed Andre Ellison's name into the secondary law enforcement terminal from his patrol vehicle, a restricted access system that requires supervisory authorization for civilian queries outside of active investigations, he did not just pull up a record. He started a clock. A federal clock. In a system he has never heard of, managed by a division he does not know exists, time monitored by people who are very, very good at their jobs. That single keystroke, that one casual, arrogant decision to run a name without authorization, had just created a time-stamped digital footprint in a federal monitoring database. And the footprint had a name attached to it. His. Calloway clips his cuffs back to his belt, says something quiet to his backup, and turns back toward the 2 men on the bench with that practiced, unhurried authority he has carried for over a decade. And he has no idea the ground beneath him just gave way. Andre Jermaine Ellison grew up in Decatur, Georgia, 11 miles from this park. He was the kid in the back of every classroom who finished the test 20 minutes early and then sat there, quiet, watching the teacher grade papers at the front desk. Not bored, not showing off, just done. His mother, a postal worker named Claudette, used to tell people her son had a mind like a steel trap. His 4th-grade teacher called it something else. Once she called it a gift that needed a serious direction. He found it at 17, when a recruiter from the United States Air Force came to his high school and set a signals intelligence brochure on his desk. Andre read it twice. Then he enlisted. 6 years in signals intelligence, 2 overseas deployments. By the time he was 25, Andre Ellison could intercept, decode, and trace a communication signal across 3 encrypted channels in the time it takes most people to pour a cup of coffee. Saying he did not do this by being aggressive. He did it by being precise, by being patient, by understanding that the most dangerous thing you can do to a liar is document them accurately and wait. After the Air Force, he went to Georgia Tech, cybersecurity and digital forensics. He graduated top of his class. He turned down 3 private sector offers that would have paid him 3 times his current salary. He took a federal appointment instead. For the past 6 years, Andre Ellison has worked as a federal cybercrime analyst, specializing in one very specific and very consequential area: the unauthorized misuse of law enforcement database access logs. In plain language, he catches people who abuse their badge to access information they have no legal right to access. He is very good at this. Terrence Damon Lyle is a different kind of quiet. Where Andre is watchful, Terrence is still. Where Andre calculates in real time, so Terrence has usually already run 3 scenarios before the situation develops. He grew up in College Park, the youngest of 4 siblings, and learned early that the loudest person in the room is rarely the most dangerous one. His mother was a nurse. His father drove long-haul trucks. Terrence was the one who fixed things: broken appliances, broken arguments, broken systems. He went to Morehouse on a partial scholarship, studied computer science and pre-law, graduated, and passed the bar on his first attempt. Chose not to practice law. Instead, he became a digital forensic auditor, a specialist who reconstructs what happened inside a computer system after the fact. Who touched what? When? From where? Why it matters in court. For the past 4 years, Terrence has served as a DOJ task force liaison, embedded with federal investigative teams that examine civil rights violations involving law enforcement technology. His job, in the simplest terms, is to take digital evidence and make a jury understand it. He is extraordinarily good at this. Today, both men had taken personal time. The charity race, the Atlanta Youth STEM Scholarship 5K, was something Andre had helped organize 3 years running. He'd recruited Terrence 2 years ago. They ran it together, raised money, shook hands, took photos with the kids who would benefit from the scholarships, and all watched the little ones in school t-shirts run across the finish line with their arms in the air like they'd just won the Olympics. When the event wrapped, they sat, like normal people, like human beings who had just done something good for their community and wanted 5 minutes to breathe before getting back in their cars. That was their crime: sitting. Andre had noticed Calloway the moment the officer stepped out of his patrol car in the adjacent lot. He'd clocked the body language, in the direction of the gaze. He'd seen that look before, not in the field, but in the database logs he reviewed every week. He'd seen the pattern of men who use their authority the way a hammer uses a nail, because it is the only tool they know. He said nothing to Terrence. He didn't need to. Terrence had already shifted his lanyard, so the event credential faced outward. They sat. They waited. And when Calloway came across the grass, with that practiced, entitled stride, both men were already prepared, measured, recording mentally, building a case in real time the way only people with their specific training can. What neither of them had fully anticipated was what Calloway would do next. Because when Calloway ran Andre's name, when he typed it into that restricted secondary terminal from his vehicle 2 minutes into the encounter, he did not run it through the standard patrol database. But he ran it through a channel that required federal authorization he did not have, a channel that Andre's unit monitored. The query hit a passive audit flag at 4:39 p.m. The flag did not alert Calloway. It alerted someone else entirely. Officer Bryce Darnell Calloway, Badge 4471, Unit 7 of the Atlanta Police Department's West Side Patrol Division, has been on this force for 11 years and 4 months. He will tell you, if you ask, that he is good at his job. And what he means is, he has never been formally disciplined. That is not the same thing. His body camera is mounted to his chest. Unit ID, BC 447109. It is active, recording. He knows this. He has always known when his camera is on. What Calloway has never fully internalized is that knowing the camera is on and understanding what that footage will one day be used for are 2 completely different things. He thinks the camera protects him. He has thought this for 11 years. Calloway grew up in Cobb County. He was a state-ranked wrestler in high school. Physical, competitive. He joined the force at 26 after a brief stint in private security and 1 semester of criminal justice at a community college. He was not unintelligent. He tested well. He trained hard. In his early years, officers who worked with him described him as thorough, if a little aggressive on stops. Over time, the thorough part faded from the descriptions. The aggressive part stayed. And he was written up once, in year 3, for an unauthorized search of a vehicle during a traffic stop. The driver complained. The complaint was reviewed. The review concluded the stop had been within departmental guidelines, technically, and the matter was closed. Calloway read that outcome and understood something. Technically, within guidelines. That was the target. Stay technically within guidelines, and the institution will absorb whatever comes. He was written up again in year 6. A man named Curtis Beaumont filed a report claiming Calloway had accessed his home address and workplace through the police database after a minor traffic dispute that resulted in no charges. Curtis had a lawyer. The internal affairs inquiry lasted 3 weeks. Calloway said he had been looking up a similar name by coincidence. The inquiry found no direct evidence of intentional abuse. Closed. Year 9. A woman named Priya Nair, a real estate attorney, filed a complaint after Calloway stopped her twice in 1 month in the same residential neighborhood where she had recently purchased a home. She documented the dates, times, and license plate logs. Her attorney contacted the department. The department reviewed the stops. Both fell within Terry stop guidelines. The complaint was listed as not sustained. 3 complaints, none sustained. Yet Calloway's supervisors described him in his most recent review as a proactive officer with strong community presence. He was passed over for a promotion the year before, but the reviewing board cited scheduling conflicts in the notation, not conduct. He carries this record the way some men carry a winning streak. He is standing in Piedmont Park right now because he saw 2 black men sitting on a bench near a parking lot and made a decision in 4 seconds. Yet he has made this kind of decision many times. It has never cost him anything. His backup, Officer Deshaun Pryor, 29 years old, 18 months on the force, still visibly uncomfortable in these kinds of stops, stands back on the path and says nothing. He watches Calloway. He watches the 2 men on the bench. Something is working behind his eyes, some quiet calculation of his own, but he doesn't speak yet. Calloway reaches for his cuffs. He is still smiling slightly. That small, a controlled smile of a man who already knows how this ends. "Gonna need you both to turn around," he says. "Just a precaution." He looks at Terrence, then he looks at Andre. And in the half-second before Andre opens his mouth, Calloway does something he has done 100 times without consequence. He jokes quietly to Pryor, under his breath, just loud enough that both men on the bench can hear it. "Always a precaution," he says with that small smile. "So always." It is the kind of joke that carries a weight only certain people can feel. Pryor does not laugh. Calloway turns back to the 2 men, cuffs already open in his hand. What he cannot see, what no arrogant man ever sees in the moment he most needs to, is the full picture forming around him. The Park CCTV camera on the lamppost has been recording since he crossed the grass. Angle, direct. Resolution, 1080p. Audio enabled. His own body camera, BC447109, is capturing every word, on every gesture, every expression. A woman named Kezia Drummond, 44, a retired school principal who walks this park every afternoon with a rescue terrier and a fully charged phone, has been filming from the bench 30 feet to the north for the past 3 minutes. She filmed quietly, phone low, because she has seen this kind of stop before, and she knows exactly what she is watching. 2 witnesses at the race cleanup tables have also looked up. And somewhere in a federal monitoring system in a building 11 miles away, an alert from a restricted database query has just been assigned a case number. Calloway sees none of this. He sees 2 men on a bench. He puts the cuffs forward, and Andre Ellison looks at the cuffs and then looks up at Calloway's face and says 6 words. 6 quiet, measured, completely devastating words. "You are making a federal mistake." That is what Andre says, not loudly, not with anger, with the specific, flat calm of a man who is not warning Calloway out of fear or desperation, but because he has already decided, with clinical precision, to give the officer one final opportunity to stop before the consequences become irreversible. Calloway pauses, just for a fraction of a second. A flicker. Then the practiced smile comes back. "Turn around," he says. 4:41 p.m. Piedmont Park, Atlanta. Terrence Lyle rises slowly from the bench. He places his hands in front of him, visible, deliberate. He says, "I clearly, and at a volume that carries, I want to be clear for any recording device in this area. I am complying under protest. I have not been informed of any lawful basis for this detention. Calloway looks at him. You watch too many YouTube videos. Terrence does not respond. Andre turns. He places his hands behind his back. And he says, Officer Calloway, I am invoking my Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable search and seizure. You have not articulated probable cause. You have not articulated reasonable suspicion sufficient for a Terry stop. I am not resisting. I am documenting. Calloway snaps the cuffs onto Andre's wrists. You're being detained for investigative purposes, Calloway says. It's not a big deal if you cooperate. It is a big deal, Andre says. It's a federal civil rights violation, and you're being recorded from 4 angles right now. Calloway does not look for the cameras. He does not check the lamp post. He does not scan the benches nearby. He has been recorded before. It has never mattered. 4:41 and 22 seconds. Calloway walks back to his patrol vehicle for the second time. He sits in the driver's seat. His screen glows. He types. He runs Andre's name again. This time, he goes deeper. He does not run a standard NCIC query. He navigates to a secondary terminal, a restricted access system called LEINX. It's a law enforcement intelligence network that requires supervisor-level clearance for civilian queries not tied to an active documented investigation. He types in the query. He hits enter. 4:41 and 25 seconds. In a federal monitoring relay, a passive audit algorithm registers an unauthorized access attempt on a restricted database node. It cross-references the login credentials, badge 4471. It cross-references the queried subject, Andre Jermaine Ellison. It cross-references Andre Ellison against the Federal Personnel Registry. It finds a match. The system does not alert Bryce Calloway. It generates a priority flag and routes it to the Federal Database Oversight Unit, the unit that Andre Ellison's division supports. Should any officer in this country be allowed to access a federal restricted database without documented probable cause? Yes or no? Put it in the comments right now. Because the answer to that question is about to become very important. Back at the bench, Officer Deshaun Pryor is standing over Terrence Lyle, who has been cuffed and asked to sit back down. Terrence complies. He is quiet. He is watching Calloway in the patrol car with an expression that reads as patience, but is actually something else entirely. Calculation. Kezia Drummond, 30 feet north, has not stopped filming. Her phone is at her hip, camera still running, and because she decided 4 minutes ago that she would not stop until this was over. Her terrier sits beside her on the bench, unbothered. She watches. 3 more bystanders have drifted toward the area. 2 are race volunteers in orange vests. 1 is a man in his 60s, a daily walker named Calvin Ossie, who was on the path and slowed when he saw the cuffs go on. He has his phone out now. He is not hiding it. Calloway returns from his vehicle, and he looks at the gathering witnesses and does not adjust his behavior. He does not lower his voice. He does not reconsider. He has never needed to before. Both of you, I'm releasing you with a formal warning, he says. You were detained for suspicious behavior in proximity to parked vehicles. You cooperated, so we're done here. He removes the cuffs from Andre first, then Terrence. He looks at them both, and then, with the entire ease of a man who has done this 100 times and paid nothing for it, he smiles. Small, private. The smile of someone who knows he just won. He clicks his pen. He writes something brief in his notebook. He turns and walks back toward his patrol car. It is 4:49 p.m. The stop lasted 12 minutes. No arrest. No citation. No charges. Calloway gets in his car and drives away. Andre Ellison stands at the bench. He rolls his wrists slowly where the cuffs were. He looks at Terrence. Terrence looks back at him. Neither man says anything for a long moment. Then Terrence reaches into his pocket and pulls out his personal phone. He opens an app. He checks a number. He shows it to Andre. Andre reads it. His expression does not change. Not visibly. Not in any way that someone watching from a distance could measure. But something shifts behind his eyes. And the kind of shift that happens when a man who has been doing this work for a long time recognizes a number that should not be there. The app is connected to the federal audit relay he helped build 3 years ago. The number on the screen is a case file ID, auto-generated, 4 minutes ago, triggered by an unauthorized LEIN-X query, tied to badge 4471. Andre looks at the case number for a long time. Then he puts his water bottle in his bag, picks up his phone, and dials. And the call connects in 2 rings. What they found when they opened that case file was not what anyone expected. It wasn't just one unauthorized query. It was never just one. The call connects in 2 rings. Andre says 3 words. Pull the log. Then he hangs up. Terrence is already standing, lanyard back in his bag, water bottle capped. He looks at Andre. Andre looks at the direction Calloway's patrol car disappeared and says nothing for 4 full seconds. Around them, said the park continues like nothing happened. A kid runs past with a kite string. 2 race volunteers laugh at something near the folding tables. The ducks by the fountain move in lazy circles. 12 minutes. That is all it was. 12 minutes that Bryce Calloway has already mentally filed and forgotten. He is 3 blocks away right now, doing a slow loop of the west side of the park. His camera is still running. He is thinking about where to stop for coffee. He believes this is over. He is wrong. At 4:53 p.m., a federal database oversight analyst named Rolanda Fitch receives the priority flag on her workstation. Rolanda is 36 years old. She has been doing this work for 9 years. She has reviewed thousands of flagged database queries. Most are minor. An officer running a plate on a personal vehicle, a detective pulling records on a closed case, administrative noise. She closes those in under 10 minutes. This one stops her. She reads the flag, and she reads the queried subject name. She cross-references it against the Federal Personnel Registry. She reads the result. Then she reads it again. She picks up her direct line and calls the duty supervisor. "I need a senior review," she says. "Right now, not tomorrow. Now." The supervisor, a man named Gerald Okafor, is at her station within 4 minutes. He reads the flag. He looks at Rolanda. "Pull everything on badge 4471, he says. "Complete LEINX access history on 18 months back." Rolanda begins the pull at 4:58 p.m. The results load in under 2 minutes. What appears on her screen is not a minor administrative problem. It is not a simple overstep. It is a document of systematic, deliberate, months-long misuse of one of the most sensitive law enforcement data systems in the country. The room gets quiet. Gerald Okafor leans forward, both hands on the desk, and reads the numbers at the top of the report. 312. Are 312 unauthorized database queries executed under badge 4471 over the past 18 months. He doesn't say anything for a moment. Then he says, "Get the Civil Rights Division on the phone. Tonight." Meanwhile, in Piedmont Park, Andre Ellison is walking to his car. He walks like a man who has already done what needed to be done and is now letting the system do its job. Because that is what he has spent 6 years building. A system that does not need him to be loud. So it does not need him to be angry. It just needs him to document accurately and wait. Terrence walks beside him. 312, Andre says quietly. He has already seen the preliminary number on his app. The audit relay pulled the summary count within minutes of Gerald Okafor ordering the full report. Terrence exhales slowly. "How many unauthorized?" "All of them," Andre says. They reach their cars. Andre opens his door. He pauses, one hand on the roof of the vehicle. Cian looks back across the park at the bench where they were sitting 20 minutes ago. The bench is empty now. The water rings where their bottles were have already dried in the October heat. He gets in his car. Bryce Calloway thinks today was a routine stop. He has no idea that within the next 6 weeks, every stop just like it, every unauthorized search, every abuse of the database he treated like a personal search engine, is about to be laid out, line by line, in a federal evidence brief. And the numbers are far worse than 312. The full audit report lands on the Federal Oversight Desk at 9:14 a.m. the following morning. It is 47 pages long. Gerald Okafor reads it in one sitting. He does not take breaks. He does not get coffee. He reads every page the way a surgeon reads a scan, carefully, precisely, looking for the boundaries of what he is dealing with. He finishes. He closes the report. He sits still for a moment. Then he calls the U.S. Joe Attorney's Office. The 312 queries are only the beginning. The audit team, led by a forensic analyst named Darius Westbrook, reconstructs the full scope of Calloway's access history with the kind of methodical precision that makes defense attorneys sweat before the case ever reaches a courtroom. What they find is not disorganized. That is what strikes Darius first. This is not someone stumbling into occasional misuse. This is a pattern. Intentional. Repeated. But documented in the digital record the way a fingerprint is documented on glass. 41 queries into the private records of civilians involved in minor traffic disputes. Disputes that resulted in no charges, no arrests, no follow-up contact of any official kind. But Calloway had their home addresses. He had their employer records. He had their financial institution codes. 17 queries into the records of public figures. A city council member, 2 local television journalists, a retired federal judge. None of them had any connection to any active investigation. 23 queries run on a woman named Brianna Calloway, his former partner. Divorced 2 years prior. Darius flags that cluster separately. And then there are the moonlighting records, a private investigation firm registered in Marietta, Georgia. Incorporated 14 months ago. Owner on file, a shell company. But the business address traces to a P.O., a box rented under a name that cross-references back to Calloway's brother-in-law. The firm had billed 11 clients over 14 months for background investigation services. Darius pulls the billing dates. He lays them against the LEIN-X access timestamps. They match. Every single billing date has a corresponding restricted database query within 48 hours. The Bryce Calloway had been charging private clients for information pulled from law enforcement systems he accessed with a badge issued by the Atlanta Police Department. He was selling it. Not loudly, not recklessly, carefully. Over 14 months. To 11 clients who paid through a company that should have been impossible to trace back to him. Should have been. Darius Westbrook is very good at his job. The evidence package assembled over the following 3 weeks is a model of what federal investigations are supposed to look like when done correctly. Body camera footage from BC 447109. Every word Calloway spoke in Piedmont Park. His unauthorized pat-down of Andre Ellison. His failure to articulate probable cause. His dismissive response to the Fourth Amendment invocation. All of it captured, time-stamped, logged. Park CCTV from the Piedmont Park lamppost camera, angled direct, 1080p, and audio-enabled. The approach, the cuffing, the quiet joke to Officer Pryor. The smirk before Calloway walked away. Kezia Drummond's phone footage, 3 minutes and 47 seconds of clear, unobstructed video, capturing the wrist grab, the cuffing, the release, and Calloway's body language throughout. Calvin Osei's phone footage, 2 minutes and 12 seconds from a slightly different angle, confirming the same sequence. The LEIN-X access logs, every query, every timestamp, and every subject name, every billing correlation. The private investigation firm's client invoices, obtained under federal subpoena. And one more thing, Officer Deshaun Pryor, 29 years old, 18 months on the force, comes in voluntarily. He sits across from a federal investigator in a gray conference room and speaks for 2 hours and 19 minutes. He describes the pattern he witnessed over his 18 months partnered with Calloway. The stops, the database runs, the jokes. Yet the confidence. He says he filed an informal concern with his sergeant 4 months ago and was told, in words he quotes exactly, Calloway knows what he's doing. His testimony is recorded, every word. The federal brief is submitted to the U.S. Attorney's Office 22 days after the stop in Piedmont Park. Calloway is served at 7:15 a.m. on a Tuesday morning at his front door in sweatpants, holding a cup of coffee. He is charged with 3 federal counts. Civil rights violation under color of law. Unauthorized access of a protected computer system. Obstruction of justice. The indictment is 43 pages. His lawyer calls it excessive. The prosecutor calls it a summary. And while all of this is unfolding in the federal system, Andre Ellison has made one phone call to one specific attorney. Her name is Savannah Pierce, and she has been waiting for a case exactly like this one. Savannah Pierce does not take every case that comes to her office. She takes the ones that matter. 39 years old, Howard University undergrad, Emory Law, 12 years in civil rights litigation, 10 of them at her own firm, Pierce Lyle Advocacy Group, Atlanta. She has tried 14 civil rights cases to verdict. She has won 13. The one she didn't win is the one she talks about at speaking engagements, not because losing taught her more about how juries think than all 13 wins combined. When Andre calls her, she listens to the facts for 11 minutes without interrupting. When he finishes, she says 2 words. Send everything. She reviews the materials that night, all of it. The footage, the logs, the audit brief, the billing correlations, the prior testimony. She makes notes in red pen in the margins of a printed copy. She circles 3 things. Underlines 1. Warranted at the bottom of the last page, she writes a single number. She is not guessing. She has done this long enough to know what a jury does when you put federal database logs next to a billing invoice, next to body camera footage, and let the timestamps speak. The city's first contact comes 14 days after the indictment is filed. A city attorney named Patrick Hughes calls Savannah's office and offers a settlement. He is measured, professional, and he uses the word reasonable 4 times in the first 2 minutes of the call. The offer is $250,000. Savannah listens to the entire pitch. Then she says, "We'll see you in court." She hangs up. Patrick Hughes calls back 40 minutes later with a revised figure. $400,000. She declines without getting on the phone. Her assistant delivers the response by email in 2 sentences. There is no third call. And the civil trial begins 7 months after the stop in Piedmont Park. Fulton County Superior Court, Courtroom 14B. The courtroom is full on the first day and every day after. The jury is seated on a Thursday morning. 8 women, 4 men. Diverse in every demographic measure. Savannah has prepared for all 12 of them. She does not make assumptions about who will understand what. And she builds her case so that anyone, regardless of background or experience, can follow every piece of evidence to its logical conclusion. The city's defense, led by a senior litigator named Charles Whitfield, rests on 2 arguments. First, Callaway was conducting proactive community patrol and acted within departmental guidelines. Second, the federal database queries, while irregular, were the result of improper training rather than intentional misconduct. And Savannah dismantles the first argument in 40 minutes on the second day of trial. She puts the Lean X authorization manual on the screen, page 11, the section titled Required Supervisory Clearance for Civilian Queries. She reads it aloud, slowly. Then she pulls up the access log, Callaway's login. No supervisory authorization request on file. Not once. Not for any of the 312 queries. She looks at the jury. He knew the rule, she says. He chose not to follow it. On 312 times. The second argument, improper training, she handles by calling the Atlanta Police Department's own training director to the stand. His name is Lieutenant Marcus Callum, and he confirms, under oath, that LEINX authorization requirements have been covered in annual mandatory training for the past 6 years. Every officer, every year, including Callaway, including the year he started the private investigation firm. Whitfield objects. The judge overrules. And the jury watches. On the 4th day, Savannah plays body camera footage in open court. Not just the Piedmont Park stop. She plays 4 prior stops, pulled from the evidence brief, showing the same pattern. Approach without articulated cause, request for ID, pat-down without consent, database query run after the stop, civilian released with a warning. 4 stops. 4 sets of black men. Not one instance of an active investigation cited. Not one. The pattern is not an argument, and it is a documentary record playing on a courtroom screen in front of 12 people who can see it with their own eyes. Juror number 7, a woman in her 50s named Dorothea, writes something in her notepad and underlines it twice. No one else in the room can read it, but her expression says everything. On the 6th day, Darius Westbrook takes the stand. He walks the jury through the billing correlation chart. Query dates matched to invoice dates, side by side. 11 clients. See 14 months. He uses simple language. He does not over-explain. He points to the numbers and lets the numbers do the work. The jury has been quiet during most of the trial, attentive but contained. When Darius finishes, juror number 3, a man named Reginald, exhales audibly. It is not dramatic. It is the sound of someone who has been holding a breath for 6 days and finally has the complete picture. Deliberations begin on a Monday morning. They last 2 days. And the verdict comes on a Wednesday afternoon at 2:47 p.m. The courtroom is standing room only. The foreperson, a woman named Claudette, same name as Andre's mother, which is a coincidence he will note later and never fully shake, stands and reads the verdict form. Count 1, civil rights violation, in favor of the plaintiff. Count 2, unauthorized computer system access, in favor of the plaintiff. Count 3, pattern of unconstitutional stops, in favor of the plaintiff, on all counts. And Calloway's attorney closes his folder. Savannah Pierce does not celebrate. She writes a single note on her legal pad. She dates it. She caps her pen. Andre and Terrence sit side by side at the plaintiff's table, the same way they sat at that bench in Piedmont Park 7 months ago. The room buzzes. The judge calls for order. And then she says the words the entire room has been waiting for. We will proceed to the damages phase. The courtroom goes still. And because everyone in that room already knows, Savannah Pierce has a number written at the bottom of page 47 of her case file. And it is nothing close to $250,000. The damages phase begins the following morning. Savannah Pierce stands at the front of courtroom 14B, and she does not raise her voice. She does not perform. She builds. She lays out the compensatory damages first, piece by piece, the way you lay bricks, each one precise, each one weight-bearing. The documented psychological impact on both plaintiffs, professional evaluations, treatment records, the specific and measurable cost of what it does to a man when the system he serves turns a weapon on him. The reputational exposure. Both men work in federal cybersecurity. Their names were run through a restricted law enforcement database without cause. Those queries created records in systems that other investigators and agencies access. And the potential professional damage is not theoretical. It is documented. Lost time, legal costs, and the compounding effect of being cuffed in a public park in front of witnesses, cameras, and a crowd while holding charity fundraiser credentials and having no immediate legal recourse to stop it. She totals the compensatory damages. $2,400,000. The room shifts. Savannah does not pause. She moves immediately into punitive damages. She puts the 312 queries back on the screen. She puts the private investigation billing records back on the screen. She puts the 4 prior body camera stops back on the screen. This was not a mistake, she says. A mistake is something you do once, recognize as wrong, and stop. Officer Calloway did this 312 times. He billed clients for it. He built a business on it. Worse end, he did it all while wearing a badge that the city of Atlanta issued and maintained. She looks at the jury. The punitive award needs to be large enough that no department, no officer, no municipality in this state looks at what happened in Piedmont Park and decides it was worth the risk. She asks for $6,750,000 in punitive damages. Whitfield's rebuttal takes 40 minutes. The jury deliberates on damages for 11 hours over 2 days. The total award is announced on a Friday afternoon. Compensatory, $2,400,000. Punitive, $6,750,000. Total, $9,150,000. The largest civil rights data misuse verdict in the history of Georgia municipal litigation. $9,150,000. Let that number sit for a moment. And because Bryce Calloway walked away from that bench in Piedmont Park, absolutely certain he had just won. The consequences come in stages, and each one lands harder than the one before. The Atlanta Police Department terminates Calloway's employment within 72 hours of the civil verdict. The termination letter cites conduct unbecoming an officer, violation of federal database access regulations, and breach of the public trust. It is 4 paragraphs long. His 11 years, out his 3 unresolved complaints, his commendations, none of it is mentioned. His pension is revoked. 23 days later, the federal criminal case resolves. Calloway enters a plea agreement on 2 of the 3 counts: unauthorized access of a protected computer system and civil rights violation under color of law. The obstruction count is dropped as part of the agreement. He is sentenced to 26 months in federal prison, 2 years of supervised release, and a permanent bar from employment in any law enforcement agency or government database access role in the United States. He will never hold a badge again. Officer Deshaun Pryor, who came in voluntarily and testified fully, receives no criminal charges. He is reassigned within the department. 6 months later, he requests a transfer to the Community Engagement Division. The request is approved. Patrick Hughes, as the city attorney who offered $250,000 on the first call, writes a brief internal memo recommending a departmental review of LEINX access protocols for all patrol units. The memo is dated the same day the verdict is announced. It takes the department 4 days to begin the review. The review leads to a complete overhaul of database access authorization procedures, mandatory supervisor sign-off for every civilian query, an audit trail reviewed weekly, and an automatic flag system for any officer who runs more than 3 unauthorized queries in a 30-day period. The system Andre Ellison helped build is now, in a direct and documented way, part of the policy of a major American police department. He thought about that for a long time. Andre Ellison does not spend the settlement money quickly. He spends the first 30 days after the verdict doing almost nothing. He runs in the mornings. He visits his mother in Decatur. He sits in Piedmont Park on the same bench twice, not to make a point, not for a photograph, but just to sit there in the morning quiet and feel what it feels like when a place that was taken from you, even briefly, is returned. Then he gets to work. The Atlanta Data Accountability Initiative is incorporated 6 weeks after the verdict, and it is a non-profit organization with a specific and clearly defined mission: to provide legal support and forensic audit resources to individuals who have had their civil rights violated through unauthorized law enforcement database access. In plain language, if a badge was used to dig into your life without legal justification, the initiative finds it, documents it, and takes it to court. Terrence Lyle serves as the founding board chair. Savannah Pierce sits on the advisory board. Idarius Westbrook, the federal forensic analyst who built the evidence brief, consults part-time. In its first year of operation, the initiative opens 11 cases. 7 result in departmental disciplinary action. 4 go to litigation. 3 of those 4 result in settlements. It is not a perfect record. It is not supposed to be. It is a beginning. There is also the scholarship. The Andre J. Ellison and Terrence D. Lyle Cybersecurity Scholarship Fund, administered through Morehouse College and Georgia Tech, awards full-ride scholarships to 5 students per year entering programs in cybersecurity, digital forensics, or civil rights law and technology. The first cohort of scholars is announced in March, 5 months after the verdict. At the ceremony, Andre speaks for 9 minutes. He does not talk about the stop. He does not mention Callaway by name. No, he talks about the students in front of him and what it means to build systems that protect people, not systems that sort them. One of the scholars, a 17-year-old named Amara Osei from College Park, asks him after the ceremony what made him choose this field. He thinks about it for a moment. "Someone tried to use the system against me," he says. "So I learned the system well enough to use it back." Amara writes that down. The body camera footage from Piedmont Park, BC 447109, every second of it, is now used in training academies across 3 states, not as a horror story, not as outrage content, as a case study in what happens when accountability exists and documentation is complete. Instructors use it to show new officers exactly where the line is and exactly what it costs when that line is crossed. Callaway's face is blurred in the training version. Andre asked for that. "It's not about him," he told Savannah when she called to ask. "It's about the decision. It's about teaching people to make a different one." There is a moment that Terrence Lyle carries with him. Not the cuffs, not the wrist grab, not the smirk as Callaway walked away. The moment he carries is the one 2 days after the verdict, when he goes to check on his mother in College Park, and she opens the door and looks at him, this woman who raised 4 children on a nurse's salary and a long-haul trucker's schedule, and she takes his face in both hands and just looks at him for a long time without saying a word. Then she says, "You did that right." He does not cry until he gets back in his car, but he cries hard. 2 men, a park bench, a water bottle sweating in the October heat, a charity run that raised money for children who are right now studying in classrooms. He's writing code, building things, because two people decided that what happened to them in Piedmont Park would not just be a story they told at dinner. It would build something. False power feels like control, until truth audits your actions. That is the whole lesson. Not the verdict, not the number, not the terminated badge. The lesson is that documentation is not passive. It is a form of power. Quiet, patient, precise. And when it is built correctly and deployed with integrity, and it is stronger than any authority that abuses it. Andre Ellison knew this on the day he enlisted. He knew it at Georgia Tech. He carried it into a federal career that most people will never fully understand. And he knew it at 4:37 p.m. on an October afternoon when an officer crossed a park with his hand on his belt and his mind already made up. He knew it. And he waited. If this story moved you, if it made you angry, or proud, or both at the same time, that feeling is worth something. Use it to share this story with someone who needs to hear it today. Drop a comment and tell us what part stayed with you. Your words might be exactly what someone else needed to see. This community is built on stories like this one. Stories that don't let injustice stay quiet. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications, because we are not done. Every week, we bring you real stories of people who stood their ground the right way, built something lasting from what was done wrong to them, and left the world more accountable than they found it. These are the stories worth staying for. We will see you in the next one.